I'm John Batchelor. My colleague and co-host, Thaddeus McCotter from WJR in Detroit, and we're going to turn to the story of Detroit because there's breaking news from the Detroit Free Press right now. The emergency manager for Detroit, Kevin Orr, I'm following the story carefully, says that he's stayed a pension freeze that he ordered last month. He's been waiting for negotiators to make progress with the city pension plans in mediation in federal bankruptcy court. Thaddeus, this looks like a story in which Detroit's bad luck and hard times are very difficult to actually translate to the people who have to suffer for this, which would be the pensioners of Detroit. But as I understand the terms here, Kevin Orr has a good deal of power and can override if these negotiations drag on. He also, according to this Free Press story, says that he means to bring in the police union and the fire unions into this as well. Is this a threat to the people of Detroit, these negotiations dragging out? And does this mean that the bankruptcy announced with great fanfare is in trouble?
Well, John, the two groups, the general retirement system, which is for non-uniformed individuals, and then the other system, which is for like police and fire and other uniformed people. You have to remember that the general retirement system's average pensioner is receiving $20,000 a year, and I think the uniformed are slightly over $30,000 a year. So we're not talking about people leaving government or leaving public service, very rich in pension or rich in retirement. We're talking about hardworking men and women who spend a lifetime playing and paying by the rules to plan for their retirement. What you're seeing out of the emergency manager in Detroit is an attempt to hasten the negotiations because he wants to go to a 401k system and he seems to be impatient with it. This seems more of a shot across the bow than a final line in the sand.
We also have news from the New York Times about swaps deals that the representatives of Detroit, the city officials made with banks, big banks, and Bank of America and UBS that were plain just scams. That's what they were, swaps deals in which you take all the risk, and it burdens Detroit with an enormous debts that were not earned. They were cheap money. It was flimsy. It was promotion money. I could go into the details here, but Kevin Orr again is fighting very hard for Detroit to protect the citizens there now. There's a sense generally, you know this, in the country that Detroit was so badly managed for so long that it's going to take many years to unpack all of the intricate ways the people of Detroit were robbed. Is that generality true, or are there specifics here we need to pay attention to?
Well, John, I think that the average American's view of this is pretty accurate. There were a lot of long-term problems in Detroit, both political, financial, as well as sociological, that went into what made Detroit what it is today, from the arsenal of democracy to bankruptcy. What we're looking at, though, and I think what the larger question for Americans to consider is Detroit the exception or is it the canary in the coal mine? When we look across the spectrum of municipalities and even some states, so let's take California, for instance, there's a very great possibility that they could wind up in the same type of grave straits that the city of Detroit is.
I'm watching Detroit, then, as the bellwether for cities, municipalities going bad. You live just outside of Detroit, Livonia, and you've grown up there watching this. Was the management, was the leadership, was the elected officials, the officialdom in Detroit, was it worse than everywhere else? Are we dealing with some kind of conspiracy, sort of like a Dashiell Hammett Red Harvest conspiracy that wrecked a city? Or is this something that we can find in any badly run city across the country?
Well, I think you find a lot of it in all badly run cities, but Detroit obviously had its own issues, much of it that arose even at the time that its rise to manufacturing prominence and greatness occurred, the $5 a day and the different peoples that it brought together in the city of Detroit, and the way that the progress of manufacturing is considered something that we would always do. Remember, what's good for GM is good for the country.
Right.
And so I think that you had a lot of built-in assumptions that what we had built up and what was built up over time would never go away and there'd never be a threat to it. I like to tell people that ask me about it, John, about the demise of Detroit. Do you want to blame a party? No, it's a collective responsibility. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that when I was born in 1965, where we are today was unimaginable to people, and so they didn't guard against it. When I was born, John, my grandparents got me something that they thought would last with me my entire life. It was 1 share of Chrysler stock. It is now housed as a stock in the Daimler Corporation in Germany.
The future for Detroit, the city is depopulated considering where it was 30 or 50 years ago, looking at it now. But we're told that General Motors is revived. Chrysler is now owned by an Italian firm, and they're planning to make a whole lot of money. Ford never really got into bad trouble and is doing very well. Will Detroit enjoy that recovery, or is it buffered from success?
Well, it's not like it was in the old days where if Ford, GM, or Chrysler were successful, the entire Detroit region would be successful. Obviously, there's been globalization. We have a different supply chain. It's a globalized supply chain. You have different selling points, access points to the market, entry points. So what you have to look at is, in many ways, what Chrysler, GM, and Ford now, either through the compulsion of bankruptcy or through the foresight, such as at Ford, has done is adapt to a globalized economy. The real question for the city of Detroit, and for any other municipality, be it state or local or county, that's finding itself in financial difficulties is how do you adapt to a globalized economy? How do you adapt your municipal governance to match and mirror what is happening, the decentralization of power and the entrepreneurial spirit that's being unleashed by the internet and other forces throughout the world? Right now, what you have are people clinging to a late 19th, early 20th century view of how municipal or state government's supposed to run, and it does not match with the changes that are happening in everybody's lives.
Finally here, 15 seconds. Are you pleased with Kevin Orr so far? Is he making good leadership decisions to your reading?
Well, I don't view it as Kevin Orr. What I worry about is the question of an emergency financial manager in the first place is very much akin to taking another step forward to insulating people from the responsibility of democracy and the accountability of democracy. And there's nothing against Mr. Orr, but it also shows that the political class in the United States has yet to explain to people that in a globalized world, things are going to have to change, and some of the changes may be painful.
I'm John Batchelor.